Dr. Maya Thompson, a humble yet powerful Black CEO of Thompson Medical Group, navigates a hostile urban environment rife with systemic racism and corruption. Amidst efforts to protect a vital community center, Maya faces intense sabotage from TechHealth Solutions, including covert attacks and intimidation by biased figures like Officer Daniels. Subtle microaggressions and overt discrimination heighten the tension, fueling Maya's resolve to expose the injustice. As she battles both corporate deceit and racial prejudices, the stakes escalate, revealing the deep-seated challenges she must overcome to achieve justice and protect her community. The morning sun spilled through the stained glass windows of Rosie's diner, casting a kaleidoscope of colors onto the Formica tabletops. The chatter of early patrons melded with the clinking of silverware and the sizzle of bacon on the griddle. It was a place where the city's heartbeat could be felt most clearly, a neighborhood staple that had weathered economic downturns and shifts in the urban landscape for decades. At a corner booth, bathed in the soft glow of a hanging pendant light, sat Dr. Maya Thompson. With her natural hair pulled back into a neat bun and a simple blouse tucked into faded jeans, she seemed like any other customer sipping her black coffee and scrolling through her phone. Yet, beneath the unassuming exterior was a woman whose presence commanded boardrooms and hospitals alike. As the CEO of Thompson Medical Group, one of the largest healthcare providers in the city, Maya wielded influence that few could rival. Her phone buzzed intermittently with messages from executives and stakeholders, but she had long since put work aside for a quiet morning. Maya loved this time of day. It was a brief reprieve from the weight of decisions and the endless parade of meetings. Here, amidst the familiar hum of Rosie's, she could reconnect with the simpler aspects of life. She took a slow sip of her coffee, the bitterness grounding her. Her eyes scanned the room, observing the regulars who had become a second family. Behind her, the door chimed as a group of young men entered, laughter trailing behind them like a familiar melody. They spread out, settling into the booths, and at the counter. One of them, Jamal, ordered a double cheeseburger with extra pickles, his easy smile lighting up his face. Maya watched him with a mix of nostalgia and concern. Jamal had grown up here, and though he was now a community organizer fighting for housing rights, their paths had diverged sharply after graduation. Maya remembered Jamal's dreams and the fiery passion that had driven him to make change. In contrast, her own journey had led her through corridors of power and into the realm of systemic reform, leveraging her position to influence policy and expand healthcare access. Their friendship had faded over time, strained by differing approaches to the same societal issues. A waitress approached Maya's table, balancing a stack of menus with practiced ease. "Good morning, Dr. Thompson. Anything I can get you today?" Maya looked up, her warm smile genuine. "Just the usual, please, black coffee and a blueberry muffin." The waitress nodded, her name tag reading Sarah. As she walked away, Maya's gaze drifted to the window, observing the bustling street outside. Despite her success, the neighborhood was still grappling with the same challenges: poverty, crime, and a lack of resources that she had spent years trying to address from her elevated vantage point. A couple at a nearby table whispered heatedly, their faces etched with frustration. Maya caught snippets of their conversation about rent increases and evictions, a stark reminder of the systemic issues that even someone in her position couldn't easily solve. She sighed softly, contemplating the limitations of her influence. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sudden entrance of Marcus Lee, her trusted chief of operations. He slid into the booth across from her, his presence both reassuring and urgent. "Maya, we need to talk," Marcus said, his tone serious but measured. She closed her phone and nodded, her calm demeanor masking the concern she felt. "What's going on?" Marcus glanced around before leaning in closer. "There's been a leak. Someone's been sharing confidential info about our upcoming merger with TechHealth Solutions. If this gets out, it could derail everything we've worked for." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. The merger was a pivotal move to expand their reach and provide better services, but any setback could have significant repercussions. "Do we have any leads on who might be responsible?" Marcus shook his head. "Not yet. We've initiated an internal investigation, but nothing concrete so far. It's been a month, and pressure is mounting from the board. They're not pleased." Maya tapped her fingers thoughtfully on the table. "We need to handle this discreetly. If it becomes public, It could damage our reputation and compromise patient trust. Let's see what we can find out, without drawing too much attention. Marcus nodded in agreement. I'll keep you updated as we go, but Maya, if this is intentional sabotage, it could be more serious than just a simple leak. Maya's mind raced, considering the possibilities. Sabotage within such a powerful organization could have far-reaching implications, especially if there were external factors at play. The societal challenges she faced every day were often complex, but this felt different, personal. As Marcus left to continue the investigation, Maya took a deep breath, steadying herself. The juxtaposition of her role, a figure of authority and change, and the humble environment of Rosie's diner highlighted the dichotomy of her existence. She had built a life that contrasted sharply with her origins, striving to bridge the gap between privilege and the struggles of her community. Her solitude was interrupted by Sarah returning with her order. "Here you go, Dr. Thompson. 1 blueberry muffin and your coffee." Maya thanked her, her thoughts still consumed by the impending crisis. As she took a bite of the muffin, she looked around the diner once more, seeing the layers of life unfolding around her, stories of struggle, resilience, and everyday victories. She felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that her work, both in the diner and beyond, had a profound impact on those around her. A few minutes later, the door chimed again, and Jamal walked in, his expression wary. He glanced around until his eyes met Maya's. He hesitated, then approached her booth. "Maya," he greeted, his voice carrying a mix of familiarity and distance. She nodded, her smile welcoming yet cautious. "Jamal, it's been a while. How are you?" He took a seat, his demeanor more serious than usual. "I need to talk to you about something important. It's about the community center." Maya's interest piqued. The community center was a critical hub for local youth, and any threat to it was a concern she took seriously. "What's going on?" Jamal leaned in, lowering his voice. "There are rumors that TechHealth Solutions is planning to take over the center as part of their expansion. If that happens, it would mean relocating a lot of the programs we run and potentially losing funding for some of the most vulnerable groups in our community." Maya felt a knot form in her stomach. The merger was not just a business move, it could have direct consequences for the people she was committed to helping. "Do you have any proof of these plans?" Jamal shook his head. "Not yet, but there are whispers in their meetings. I thought maybe you could help us get more information, considering your connections." Maya nodded thoughtfully. "I'll see what I can do. Let me talk to some contacts, maybe someone in the board can shed some light on this." Jamal gave a hopeful smile. "I knew I could count on you." As he left, Maya's mind raced. The merger was already under scrutiny due to the leak, and now there was the added pressure of potential community backlash. The intertwining of corporate interests and community welfare was a delicate balance, one that Maya had to navigate carefully. She looked around the diner once more, the everyday interactions a stark contrast to the high-stakes decision she faced. Here, in this humble setting, she could find clarity and inspiration, reminding her why she fought so hard for change. A waitress approached, placing an order of pancakes on a nearby table. Maya watched as Sarah balanced plates and served customers, her efficiency a testament to the quiet strength of Rosie's staff. The diner was more than just a place to eat. It was a microcosm of the city's soul, embodying both its struggles and its spirit. Maya realized that despite her wealth and power, her true influence lay in these small moments. Connections made over coffee, support offered in times of need, and the unwavering commitment to uplift those around her. She had the resources to effect change on a grand scale, but it was these personal interactions that grounded her, reminding her of the real impact of her work. As the morning wore on, Maya immersed herself in the dual challenges of addressing the merger leak and supporting Jamal's efforts to protect the community center. The diner's atmosphere shifted with the changing day, the once quiet morning now bustling with lunch crowds. Yet, Maya remained a calm presence amidst the chaos, her humility and resolve a beacon of strength. But beneath the surface, the seeds of conflict were being sown. Unseen forces were at play, and Maya couldn't shake the feeling that her efforts were being closely monitored. She glanced at her reflection in the window, seeing a woman who had risen above so much, yet still faced the same systemic hurdles that plagued her community. A sudden commotion erupted near the entrance. A group of men in suits, their expressions stern and determined. They took a seat at the counter, their presence immediately noticeable, yet somehow overlooked in the din of the crowd. Maya's instincts kicked in, sensing an underlying tension as they scanned the room, their eyes lingering on her booth for a moment before they moved towards the door. As the men left, one of them had dropped a briefcase on the floor, its contents briefly visible as Sarah hurried to pick it up. Maya watched them leave, an uneasy feeling settling in her chest. The briefcase might hold clues to the ongoing issues, but she had to tread carefully. Balancing her role as a community advocate with her corporate responsibilities was a tightrope walk, one that required finesse and vigilance. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for the challenges ahead. The day at Rosie's diner was more than just a respite. It was the battleground where her worlds collided and where the true test of her strength and humility would unfold. Maya Thompson watched as the two men in suits exited Rosie's diner, their briefcase tucked under one arm and their expressions unreadable. She couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that had settled in her stomach. Something about their presence felt off, more deliberate than mere coincidence. As she turned back to her coffee, her mind raced with possibilities. Could they be connected to the leak Marcus had mentioned? And if so, what was their agenda? Just then, Jamal approached her booth, his brow furrowed with concern. "Maya, have you heard anything else about the community center plans? I've been hearing more rumors that TechHealth Solutions is moving forward with their takeover." Maya sighed, setting her muffin aside. "I've been trying to dig deeper, but without solid information, it's hard to say. Those men who came in earlier might be connected. I have a feeling TechHealth isn't playing around." Jamal leaned in, his voice lowering. "If they're involved in both the leak and the community center takeover, we need to act fast. They could be trying to silence anyone who stands in their way." Before Maya could respond, the diner's door swung open again, and a woman in a crisp suit stepped inside. Her demeanor was brisk, her heels clicking authoritatively against the tiled floor. She scanned the room, her eyes landing briefly on Maya before settling on Jamal. "Excuse me?" the woman said, approaching their table with purposeful strides. "Are you Dr. Maya Thompson?" Maya nodded, maintaining her calm. "Yes, that's me. How can I help you?" The woman extended her hand, her grip firm, but not overly warm. "I'm Angela Rivera, Head of Public Relations at TechHealth Solutions. I understand you have some concerns about our upcoming merger and its impact on the community center." Maya took Angela's hand, her smile polite but guarded. "Yes, Angela, I'd like to understand more about your plans. The community center is a vital resource for many residents, and any changes could have significant repercussions." Angela's eyes flickered with a hint of impatience, but she quickly masked it with professionalism. "I appreciate your concern, Dr. Thompson. Our merger is aimed at expanding our healthcare services, which includes funding for community initiatives like the center you're so passionate about. Any transitions will be handled with the utmost care to ensure minimal disruption." Jamal interjected, his voice firm. "Minimal disruption." "Last I checked, there have been several instances where corporate expansions have led to the downsizing or repurposing of essential community services. We need assurances that this time will be different." Angela raised an eyebrow, her tone shifting slightly. "I understand skepticism, especially given the history of corporate involvement in community affairs. However, TechHealth Solutions is committed to fostering positive relationships with local organizations. We believe in supporting, not undermining, the valuable work being done here." Maya studied Angela's expression, sensing an underlying tension. "That's reassuring to hear. But there have been whispers of potential cuts and reallocations. Transparency is crucial for maintaining trust." Angela's jaw tightened ever so slightly, a subtle sign of irritation that Maya was adept at noticing. "We're still in the early stages of the merger, and while there are plans to optimize our operations, we haven't finalized any decisions regarding specific programs. Rest assured, any changes will be communicated well in advance." Jamal wasn't convinced. Early stages or not, the uncertainty itself is causing anxiety among the community members. People rely on that center for support, education, and recreational activities. Any instability could have long-term negative effects. Angela took a deep breath, clearly striving to maintain composure. "I understand the importance of the community center, and that's why we're exploring ways to enhance its offerings rather than diminish them. However, budgetary constraints are a reality we must navigate. Maya leaned forward, her tone calm yet assertive. Budgetary constraints shouldn't come at the expense of essential community services. Perhaps there's a way we can collaborate to ensure both the success of the merger and the preservation of the center. Angela considered this for a moment before nodding slowly. Collaboration is always an option worth exploring. I'd be open to discussing potential partnerships or alternative funding strategies that could benefit both parties. As the conversation continued, Maya couldn't help but feel the subtle shift in Angela's demeanor. The initial politeness had given way to a more guarded stance, the undercurrents of tension growing thicker. It was clear that Angela was navigating a delicate balance between corporate interests and community welfare, and Maya sensed that there were layers beneath the surface yet to be uncovered. After a few more exchanges, Angela stood up, her expression softening slightly. "Thank you for bringing these concerns to our attention, Dr. Thompson. I'll relay your suggestions to our executive team and see what can be done to address them." Maya nodded, her mind already formulating plans for follow-up meetings and potential collaborations. "I appreciate your willingness to engage, Angela. Let's keep the lines of communication open." As Angela left the diner, Jamal let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "That went better than I expected, but I still have a bad feeling about TechHealth's intentions." Maya reached across the table, placing a reassuring hand on his arm. "We'll handle this together. We need to stay vigilant and ensure that our voices are heard in these discussions." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Detective Laura Jenkins, a friend of Marcus and a respected figure in community law enforcement. She slid into the booth with a sense of urgency etched on her face. "Maya, Jamal," she greeted, her tone brisk. "We need to talk about something important. It's related to the recent leak." Maya's heart skipped a beat. "What's going on, Laura?" Laura leaned in, lowering her voice. "We've identified some suspicious activity linked to TechHealth Solutions. It appears there may be internal sabotage aimed at undermining the merger. We suspect that the leak was intentional, designed to create instability and resistance from both the community and the board." Jamal's eyes widened with concern. "Sabotage? Do you have any leads on who might be behind this?" Laura shook her head. "It's still early, but we're looking into a few possibilities. Some of the evidence points towards someone with insider knowledge, possibly someone from within TechHealth. We're also investigating potential external influences that could be benefiting from the merger's failure." Maya felt a surge of frustration, mixed with determination. "This is exactly why we need to protect the community center. If TechHealth is willing to sabotage us, they're not just another corporate entity. They're a threat to the stability and well-being of our neighborhood." Laura nodded solemnly. "I agree. We need to act quickly to prevent further damage. I suggest we set up a meeting with Marcus and see if there's any information he can provide. Any additional insights could be invaluable." Maya's mind raced, connecting the dots between the men in suits earlier and the current situation. "I'll coordinate with Marcus in the meantime. We need to keep this information close to the vest to avoid unnecessary panic." As Laura left to initiate the next steps, Maya leaned back, her thoughts a whirlwind of strategies and potential threats. The diner, once a sanctuary of calm, now felt like the epicenter of a storm brewing on the horizon. The subtle prejudices and biases she had long navigated in her professional life were now manifesting in overt attempts to destabilize her efforts and the community she cherished. She glanced around Rosie's diner, observing the diverse clientele that made up the fabric of her city. Each person carried their own stories of resilience and struggle, much like her own. Yet, despite her success, Maya couldn't escape the underlying societal biases that often underestimated her capabilities or questioned her intentions based solely on her appearance. A young woman at the counter gave Maya a dismissive glance as she ordered her second coffee of the morning. The slight sneer on her face spoke volumes, a microaggression that Maya had become all too familiar with. Instead of reacting, Maya chose to remain composed, understanding that letting such moments affect her would only play into the hands of those who sought to undermine her. As she sipped her coffee, her phone buzzed again, with a message from Marcus. "Meeting at my office in 30 minutes urgent." Maya glanced at the clock and nodded to Jamal. "We should head out, time is of the essence." They left Rosie's diner, the door chiming softly behind them as they stepped into the bustling city streets. The sun had climbed higher, casting sharp shadows and adding a sense of urgency to their movements. Maya's mind was focused, her every step purposeful, as they made their way to Marcus's office. Upon arriving, they were greeted by Marcus, who wasted no time in getting to the point. "We've gathered some preliminary evidence that points towards a whistleblower within TechHealth, someone who's been leaking information to destabilize the merger and the community center plans." Maya felt a flicker of hope amidst the tension. "Do we know who it is?" Marcus shook his head. "Not yet, but we have a few suspects based on access logs and communication records. It's someone who has a direct line to both the corporate board and external contacts." Jamal frowned, his fists clenched. "This is bigger than we thought. If someone within TechHealth is orchestrating this, we need to expose them before they can cause more damage." Maya nodded, her resolve strengthening. "We need to work closely with Detective Jenkins and her team. If we can identify the whistleblower, we can turn the tables and protect both the merger and the community center." As they delved deeper into the investigation, Maya couldn't help but reflect on the systemic challenges she faced, not just in this immediate conflict, but in the broader societal context. Despite her achievements, she still encountered barriers and biases that sought to undermine her authority and dismiss her contributions. Each step forward was met with subtle resistance, each piece of evidence uncovered, revealing deeper layers of prejudice. One afternoon, as Maya was reviewing financial reports in her office, her assistant Tasha knocked lightly on the door before entering. "Maya, there's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent." Maya glanced up, her expression curious. "Send her in, Tasha." A young woman stepped into the room, her demeanor hesitant, yet determined. She was in her late 20s, with tightly coiled hair and a strong presence that belied her nervousness. Maya recognized her as Lena Brooks, a former employee of TechHealth Solutions who had recently left the company under suspicious circumstances. "Maya Thompson?" Lena asked, her voice steady, despite the obvious tension. "Yes. I'm Maya, please, have a seat." Maya gestured to the chair opposite her desk. Lena sat down, her eyes darting around the room, as if weighing whether to trust the woman before her. "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice." Maya leaned forward, her tone reassuring. "Of course. What's on your mind, Lena?" Lena took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "I used to work in the communications department at TechHealth. I left a few months ago because things started to get uncomfortable. There were pressures to manipulate public perception and suppress certain information. I didn't sign any non-disclosure agreements because I never intended to stay long." Maya listened intently, her heart pounding with the realization that Lena could hold the key to unraveling the sabotage. "What kind of information are you referring to?" Lena glanced around again before speaking. There were discussions about the merger being a way to absorb smaller community-focused organizations and redirect their funds into more profitable ventures. The community center was one of them. They planned to dismantle it once the merger was complete. Maya felt a surge of anger and urgency. "Do you have any documentation or evidence to support this?" Lena nodded, pulling out a folder from her bag. "I kept emails, memos, and meeting notes that detail these plans. I've been hesitant to come forward because I fear retaliation, but I can't stand by and watch this happen." Maya reached out, placing a comforting hand on Lena's arm. "You're doing the right thing by coming forward. We need all the information you have to expose TechHealth's true intentions and protect the community center." Lena gave a small, determined smile. "I want to help. I know how much this center means to the community, and I can't let it be destroyed for profit." As Lena shared the contents of her folder, Maya felt the pieces of the puzzle beginning to fit together. The sabotage was not just an internal issue, it was a calculated effort to undermine community resources and consolidate power for TechHealth. The evidence Lena provided was irrefutable, and Maya knew they had to act swiftly to prevent further damage. Later that evening, Maya convened a meeting with Marcus and Jamal in her office. The atmosphere was tense, the weight of their mission palpable in the air. "We have Lena Brooks on our side," Maya announced, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "She's provided us with concrete evidence of TechHealth's plans to dismantle the community center and manipulate the merger process for their gain." Marcus reviewed the documents Lena had shared, his expression grim. This confirms our suspicions. We need to present this to Detective Jenkins and ensure it's handled legally to avoid any backlash." Jamal nodded in agreement. "We also need to rally community support. If TechHealth feels threatened, they might escalate their tactics." Maya leaned back, her mind racing with strategies. "We have to be strategic. Publicly exposing this without solid backing could lead to defamation lawsuits. We need to work closely with law enforcement and ensure we have airtight evidence before making any public moves." As they strategized, Maya couldn't help but reflect on the subtle prejudices she often faced. Despite her success and influence, there were still moments where her authority was questioned or dismissed based on assumptions about her background. Today, however, the focus was on combating those very biases, using evidence and community support to overcome the systemic challenges TechHealth posed. The next morning, Maya met with Detective Jenkins at her office. The evidence Lena had provided was extensive, detailing internal communications and strategic plans to undermine community resources. Detective Jenkins reviewed the documents meticulously, her expression growing more serious with each passing minute. "This is substantial," Jenkins remarked, looking up from the papers. "We can definitely build a case against TechHealth, but we need to ensure we have all the necessary legal grounds to move forward without jeopardizing the merger's integrity." Maya nodded, her determination unwavering. "I'm committed to seeing this through, not just for the community center, but for everyone who relies on these services." "What's our next step?" Jenkins leaned forward, her tone resolute. "We'll need to subpoena key executives and conduct a thorough investigation into their financial and operational practices. It's going to be a lengthy process, but with the evidence we have, we stand a strong chance." As the days turned into weeks, the tension between Maya and TechHealth Solutions escalated. Subtle acts of prejudice and bias became more overt as TechHealth's representatives attempted to undermine Maya's credibility and authority. In board meetings, some members of the board subtly questioned her decisions, their comments laced with condescension. One afternoon, Maya attended a high-profile board meeting to discuss the merger's progress. The room was filled with influential figures, their polished appearances masking the underlying tensions. As Maya presented the latest updates, she felt the eyes of certain board members scrutinizing her, their body language suggesting doubt and skepticism. "Dr. Thompson, while your financial reports are impressive, some of us are concerned about the potential impact on our community partners." One board member, Mr. Harris, interjected, his tone patronizing. "Are you sure that diverting funds won't create unintended consequences?" Maya maintained her composure, her voice calm and confident. "I understand the concerns, Mr. Harris. However, the merger is designed to enhance our services and expand our reach, which ultimately benefits our community partners. We've conducted thorough analyses to ensure that the impact is positive and sustainable." Mr. Harris smirked, leaning back in his chair. "Sustainable time will tell, Dr. Thompson. Your track record is commendable, but in this industry, things can change rapidly." Maya met his gaze steadily, refusing to be rattled. "Indeed they can. That's why it's crucial to stay adaptable and responsive to community needs. Our commitment to transparency and collaboration remains unwavering." The room fell silent for a moment. The tension thick enough to cut with a knife, Maya could feel the weight of unspoken prejudices pressing down on her. But she remained steadfast, her professionalism a shield against their doubts. After the meeting, as Maya was gathering her notes, Mr. Harris approached her, a forced smile on his face. "You handled that well, Maya. Just remember, not everyone is as supportive as you are." Maya offered a polite nod, though her heart raced with frustration. "Thank you for your feedback, Mr. Harris. I'm always open to constructive criticism." As he walked away, Maya couldn't help but feel the sting of his veiled contempt. It wasn't just about the merger. It was about her place in a system that often sought to undermine her based on preconceived notions. That evening, Maya returned to Rosie's diner, seeking solace in its familiar ambience. She found a quiet corner and ordered a second cup of coffee, her mind still reeling from the day's events. As she stared out the window, she saw the two men in suits again, their presence a constant reminder of the ongoing battle. A waitress approached, her name tag reading Tina. "Another muffin, Dr. Thompson?" Maya shook her head gently. "No, thank you, Tina. Just the coffee is fine." Tina hesitated for a moment before speaking. You know, Maya, you're really making a difference here. It's not easy juggling all these responsibilities and still finding time to care for the community. Maya smiled, appreciating the genuine compliment. Thank you, Tina. It's a team effort, really. Tina nodded, a hint of admiration in her eyes. If there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. As Tina walked away, Maya felt a surge of gratitude. It was moments like these, small acts of kindness and support, that fueled her resilience. Despite the challenges and the biases she faced, she knew she wasn't alone in her fight. Her phone buzzed again with a message from Marcus. We've identified a potential suspect. Meet me at the community center tonight at 7 p.m. Maya glanced at the clock and then back at the bustling diner, the day drawing to a close. I have to go, she told Tina, gathering her things. Thank you for the coffee. As she stepped out into the evening air, the city's lights flickered to life, casting a vibrant glow on the streets below. Maya's mind was focused on the meeting, knowing that each step she took brought her closer to uncovering the truth and protecting the community she loved. The journey ahead was fraught with obstacles, but Maya was determined to navigate them with grace and strength. The subtle prejudices and overt biases she encountered only strengthened her resolve to fight for justice, both within her organization and in the broader societal landscape. As she made her way to the community center, the stakes were higher than ever, and Maya knew that the coming days would test her in ways she had never imagined. Maya Thompson felt the weight of the upcoming meeting press down on her as she walked briskly to Marcus's office. The early evening air was crisp, the city's skyline silhouetted against a setting sun that cast long shadows on the pavement. Her mind raced with strategies and contingencies, every step a testament to her unwavering resolve. The community center's future, and perhaps her own professional standing, hung in the balance. As she approached Marcus's office, the door swung open, revealing him hunched over his desk, eyes fixed on his computer screen. His usually composed demeanor was now tinged with anxiety. Maya, come in, he called, gesturing to the chair opposite him. She slid into the seat, meeting his tense gaze. What did you find out? Marcus leaned forward, his voice lowered. We've identified the whistleblower. It's someone high up in TechHealth's internal communications, Evelyn Grant. She had access to sensitive information and was privy to the merger's details. Maya's heart skipped a beat. Evelyn Grant was known for her loyalty to TechHealth, a senior executive with an impeccable record. Why would she sabotage the merger? Marcus shook his head, frustration evident in his expression. We're not entirely sure, but it seems she's been coerced. We believe TechHealth might have blackmailed her, threatening her career or personal life if she didn't comply. Before Maya could respond, her phone buzzed with an urgent message. Meeting tonight at 9 p.m., location, Midtown parking garage. Her eyes narrowed. What is this about? Marcus glanced at her phone, concern etched on his face. It looks like someone is trying to intimidate you. We need to be cautious. Maya took a deep breath, her mind steady despite the mounting tension. We can't let them scare us into backing down. We need to expose Evelyn's coercion and protect her. Marcus nodded in agreement. Agreed. I've already contacted Detective Jenkins. She's on high alert and will ensure our safety. As they discussed their next moves, a shadow loomed outside the window. Maya glanced up, spotting Officer Daniels, a figure she had come to associate with systemic biases and subtle prejudices. His presence was uninviting, his posture rigid as he watched her from across the street. Maya felt a surge of unease, but pushed it aside, focusing on the task at hand. Later that evening, Maya and Marcus arrived at the Midtown parking garage, their steps deliberate and measured. The area was dimly lit, the flickering lights casting eerie shadows on the concrete walls. Detective Jenkins met them at the entrance, her expression serious. Stay close and follow my lead, she instructed, her voice firm. We don't know what we're walking into. They navigated the maze-like structure, the sound of their footsteps echoing ominously. As they reached the designated meeting spot, a flicker of movement caught Maya's eye. A figure emerged from the darkness, Evelyn Grant, her face pale and eyes darting nervously. Maya, Marcus, Evelyn whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't have a choice. They threatened to ruin my career and expose personal secrets if I didn't comply. Maya felt a pang of sympathy mixed with determination. "We're here to help you, Evelyn. You don't have to do this alone." Before Evelyn could respond, a loud crash reverberated through the garage. Shadows shifted, and a group of men in dark attire emerged, their faces obscured by masks. One of them stepped forward, his voice dripping with menace. "Hand over the evidence, and no one gets hurt." Maya stood tall, her calm exterior belying the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "You won't get away with this. The truth will come out." The leader lunged toward her, but Detective Jenkins swiftly intervened, pulling Maya back. "Stay behind me," she ordered, her gun drawn. "Don't make any sudden moves." Chaos erupted as the masked men advanced, desperation etched on their faces. Maya's mind raced, analyzing the situation, seeking any advantage. Her phone buzzed again with a message. "This is just the beginning. Stop now, or face the consequences." She glanced at Marcus and Evelyn, their expressions mirroring her own determination. "We need to hold them off until reinforcements arrive," she instructed, her voice steady. Marcus nodded, drawing his own concealed weapon. "We can create a diversion, Evelyn. You find a way to disrupt their communication, detective. Coordinate with the other officers." Evelyn took a deep breath, pulling a small device from her pocket. "I've hacked into their comms. Give me a moment." As the confrontation intensified, Maya felt the subtle prejudices and biases she had long navigated manifest in this moment of crisis. The attackers underestimated her authority and resourcefulness, believing that a CEO could be easily intimidated. But Maya's calm and strategic mind turned their assumptions against them, forcing the attackers to confront the unexpected resilience of a woman they deemed vulnerable. Evelyn worked swiftly, her fingers flying over the device. "Now!" she shouted, triggering a series of malfunctions in the attackers' equipment. The men staggered, disoriented by the sudden interference. Seizing the moment, Marcus and Detective Jenkins moved with precision, neutralizing the threat with calculated efficiency. The masked leader attempted to flee, but was apprehended by Jenkins, his struggles futile against her trained expertise. As the dust settled, Maya approached Evelyn, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You did great. Thank you for trusting us." Evelyn nodded, her eyes shining with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you." Detective Jenkins joined them, her expression softened slightly. "We've secured the area and apprehended the suspects. TechHealth's involvement is clear now, and will continue investigating their broader schemes." Maya felt a surge of relief mixed with a renewed sense of purpose. The immediate threat had been neutralized, but the battle against systemic corruption and prejudice was far from over. She glanced around the parking garage, the intensity of the moment etched into her memory. As they left the garage, the night air felt fresher, the weight of the day's events slowly lifting. Maya turned to Marcus and Evelyn, her resolve stronger than ever. "We need to take this evidence to the media. It's time to expose TechHealth's true intentions and hold them accountable." Marcus nodded, his face set with determination. "Agreed, but we need to ensure that we protect everyone involved. The backlash could be severe." Evelyn stepped forward, her voice firm. "I'm ready to stand by you. It's time the truth comes out." Before they could proceed, Maya felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to see Officer Daniels standing there, his expression unreadable. "Dr. Thompson," he began, his voice tinged with authority and something darker beneath the surface. "I need to speak with you about your involvement in tonight's incident." Maya remained calm, masking her apprehension. "Of course, Officer Daniels. What's the issue?" Daniels' eyes bore into hers, a subtle hint of contempt underlying his gaze. "We've received reports of unauthorized access to TechHealth Systems Care. To explain your role in that?" Maya's mind raced, recognizing the trap being set. "I was trying to help a former employee expose corruption within TechHealth. It was for the greater good, to protect our community center and ensure transparency in the merger." Daniels smirked slightly, a dismissive gesture. "The greater good doesn't excuse unauthorized hacking, Dr. Thompson. We have protocols to follow." Before Maya could respond, Detective Jenkins stepped forward, her hand subtly reaching for her radio. "Officer Daniels, we have evidence that these individuals were coerced into sabotaging the merger. Maya was acting in good faith to protect community interests." Daniels' smirk faltered, replaced by a more serious expression. "We'll see about that." For now, I need you to come with me for further questioning." Maya felt a surge of frustration and helplessness. She had worked tirelessly to build bridges and fight systemic issues, yet here she was, facing potential legal repercussions for her efforts to uphold justice. Her internal struggle was palpable. Anger simmered beneath her calm exterior, but she knew maintaining composure was essential. "Look, Officer Daniels," she began, her voice steady, despite the turmoil inside. "I'm trying to do what's right. If there are protocols being violated, I'm willing to cooperate fully to clear my name and ensure that justice is served." Daniels' gaze softened slightly, but his stance remained firm. "We'll see, Dr. Thompson. For now, please follow me." As Maya was escorted out of the parking garage, Detective Jenkins whispered urgently, "We need to ensure your protection. TechHealth won't stop until they've silenced you." Maya nodded, her resolve hardening. "Then we need to accelerate our plans. This is just the beginning." Back at her office, Maya convened an emergency meeting with Marcus, Evelyn, and Detective Jenkins. The stakes had escalated. Now Maya faced not only corporate sabotage, but also systemic bias aimed at undermining her authority and discrediting her efforts. "We need to move quickly," Maya asserted, her voice filled with determination. "If TechHealth is willing to use their influence to target me personally, they're not just after the merger, they're trying to dismantle everything we've built. We need to take this to the media now before they have a chance to bury the story." Marcus glanced at Detective Jenkins, who nodded in agreement. "We can leverage the evidence we have and coordinate with trusted journalists who've been following this case. Transparency is key." Evelyn added, "I can provide additional documentation and testimonies from other former employees who faced similar coercion. We need to present a unified front." As they strategized, Maya felt a surge of internal strength. The injustices she faced, both overt and subtle, only fueled her determination to fight harder. She knew that standing up against systemic corruption required not just evidence, but also resilience and unwavering commitment. The night before the planned media release, Maya sat alone in her office, reflecting on the journey that had led her here. The subtle prejudices, the systemic biases, and the relentless challenges had tested her in ways she hadn't imagined. But through it all, her humility and commitment to her community had remained steadfast. Her phone buzzed with a message from Jamal. "Meeting at the community center at 6 p.m. We need to finalize the rally details." Maya glanced at the clock and quickly typed a response. "On my way." As she prepared to leave, her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. The confrontation with Officer Daniels had solidified the urgency of their mission. The revelation of TechHealth's deeper corruption had raised the stakes, making the forthcoming media exposure not just a strategic move, but a necessary act of defiance against a system rigged to undermine her. She met up with Marcus and Evelyn at the community center, the familiar hustle and bustle a stark contrast to the tension she felt inside. Together, they reviewed the final details of the rally, ensuring every element was in place for a successful and impactful event. As the clock struck 6, Detective Jenkins arrived, her presence a reassuring reminder of their alliance with law enforcement. "Everything is set for tonight," she confirmed. "We've informed our contacts, and press coverage should be solid." Maya took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of the moment. This is it. We expose them tonight for the community, for justice, and for everyone who's been silenced by TechHealth. Just as they were about to leave, a loud crash echoed through the community center. Maya's heart raced as they turned to see a group of men, some in plain clothes, others dressed as security personnel, storming into the building. Their leader, a tall man with a menacing presence, locked eyes with Maya. "You think you can challenge TechHealth and get away with it?" he sneered. "You'll regret this." Maya stood her ground, her voice unwavering. "We're fighting for what's right. You won't stop us." Before the situation could escalate further, Detective Jenkins moved swiftly, her voice commanding the intruders to stand down. A tense standoff ensued, the room filled with the charged atmosphere of impending conflict. Just as the confrontation reached its peak, the sound of sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder by the second. Relief washed over Maya as more officers arrived, swiftly taking control of the situation. The intruders were apprehended, their plans thwarted once again. Breathing heavily, Maya looked around the community center, the gravity of what they had endured settling in. "We did it," she whispered, a mix of exhaustion and triumph in her voice. Detective Jenkins approached her, a reassuring smile on her face. "You're stronger than you know, Maya. We're all in this together." As the night drew to a close, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. The battle was far from over, but the initial conflicts had been met with resilience and solidarity. The community stood behind her, and the support of her allies fortified her resolve. But as she walked home, the city lights flickering around her, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that the true confrontation was yet to come. The seeds of change had been planted, but the root struggles of systemic corruption and prejudice were deeply entrenched, promising further challenges on the horizon. Maya Thompson walked briskly back to her office, her mind racing with the events of the evening. The confrontation at the community center had shaken her, but it also solidified her determination to expose TechHealth Solutions' corruption. As she navigated the bustling city streets, her phone buzzed incessantly with messages from Marcus, Evelyn, and Detective Jenkins. Each notification was a reminder of the mounting pressure and the stakes that had never been higher. Entering her office, Maya was greeted by the sight of Marcus hunched over his desk. Poring through a stack of documents, Evelyn stood by the window, her hands clasped behind her back, watching the city lights flicker outside. Detective Jenkins was already there, her laptop open and fingers dancing across the keyboard as she compiled the latest findings. "Maya, we've got something," Marcus announced without looking up. Evelyn found additional emails that linked TechHealth executives directly to the sabotage efforts. These aren't just isolated incidents, they indicate a coordinated campaign to undermine the merger and discredit the community center. Maya felt a surge of urgency. "Show me." Evelyn handed her a folder filled with printed emails, each one meticulously detailed with timestamps, sender information, and incriminating content. Maya flipped through them quickly, her eyes narrowing as she read the correspondences. The threads were clear. TechHealth was orchestrating a multifaceted attack to destabilize the merger and erode community trust. "This is damning," Maya said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the evidence. "We need to present this to Detective Jenkins immediately." Detective Jenkins nodded, her expression resolute. "I'm already drafting a report. We can move forward with the press release tonight. But we need to be cautious. If TechHealth catches wind of this leak, they'll escalate their efforts to silence us." Before Maya could respond, her phone buzzed with another message. "Urgent meeting requested by TechHealth today at 3 p.m. Location, downtown conference room." Maya's stomach churned. "They're trying to intimidate us further. We need to stay ahead." Marcus leaned back, rubbing his temples. "We should request a protective escort. If they escalate, we can't afford any more surprises." Evelyn interjected, her voice calm but firm. "I can arrange for additional security. We need to ensure that our actions are protected legally and physically." Maya took a deep breath, feeling the weight of leadership pressing down on her. "Agreed. Let's coordinate with Detective Jenkins and make sure we're covered on all fronts. This meeting could be a trap." As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across her office, Maya worked tirelessly alongside her team, finalizing the press release and securing their evidence. The air was thick with tension, each passing minute heightening the sense of impending confrontation. The room buzzed with activity, the sounds of phones ringing and keyboards clacking a stark contrast to the calm determination on Maya's face. At exactly 3 p.m., Maya, Marcus, Evelyn, and Detective Jenkins arrived at the downtown conference room, escorted by a team of uniformed officers. The building was an imposing glass tower, its sleek facade reflecting the city's vibrant energy. Inside, the conference room was stark and modern. The long table surrounded by high-backed chairs, occupied by TechHealth executives and a few key board members. Angela Rivera stood at the head of the table, her expression cool and composed. Behind her, a large screen displayed the TechHealth logo, its presence a stark reminder of the power dynamics at play. Maya took her seat, her posture upright and her gaze steady. "Dr. Thompson," Angela began, her voice smooth and controlled. "Thank you for meeting with us. I trust you've reviewed the recent developments regarding the merger and the community center?" Maya nodded, her voice measured. "Yes, I have the evidence. We've uncovered points to a deliberate attempt to sabotage the merger and discredit the community center. We're here to address these serious allegations and seek a resolution that benefits both parties and the community at large." Angela's smile was thin, almost imperceptible. "I see. While we understand the importance of transparency and community support, we must also consider the financial stability and strategic goals of TechHealth. Unfounded accusations can harm our reputation and hinder progress that ultimately benefits the broader population." Detective Jenkins interjected, her voice authoritative. "Ms. Rivera, the evidence you're referring to has been corroborated by multiple sources. We have documentation that clearly links TechHealth executives to the sabotage efforts. These actions not only undermine the merger, but also jeopardize the resources and support systems that the community center provides." A murmur of discomfort rippled through the room. Angela maintained her composure, but her eyes flickered with unease. "We're committed to ensuring that the merger proceeds smoothly and that the community center continues to operate effectively. If there are concerns, we're open to discussing them in a constructive manner." Maya leaned forward, her determination unwavering. "Constructive dialogue requires honesty and integrity from all parties. Attempting to undermine our efforts through sabotage and manipulation is unacceptable. We're not here to obstruct progress, but to ensure that it is carried out ethically and responsibly." Angela's facade began to crack, the thin veneer of professionalism giving way to underlying frustration. "Dr. Thompson, let's not turn this into a personal vendetta. We have mutual interests in ensuring the success of the merger." Maya's eyes met Angela's, her voice firm. "This is not a personal vendetta, it's a matter of accountability and justice. By orchestrating these sabotage efforts, TechHealth has demonstrated a disregard for ethical practices and a willingness to harm community resources for corporate gain." As the conversation intensified, the room seemed to close in around Maya, the stakes higher than ever. The TechHealth executives shifted uncomfortably, their initial confidence wavering under the weight of the evidence and Maya's unwavering stance. Suddenly, the doors to the conference room burst open and Officer Daniels stormed in, flanked by uniformed officers. His expression was a mix of anger and authority, his presence a direct challenge to Maya's claims. "Stop this nonsense!" Daniels barked, his eyes blazing with disdain. "You're disrupting a legitimate business merger. This is harassment." Maya felt her blood boil, but she maintained her composure. "Officer Daniels, your interference is unwarranted and unprofessional. We have legal grounds to present our evidence, and we expect to be heard without obstruction." Daniels took a step closer, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "You've crossed the line, Maya. Your actions are jeopardizing this merger and tarnishing TechHealth's reputation. We can't have unauthorized interference." Detective Jenkins swiftly moved to Maya's side, her voice calm yet commanding. "Officer Daniels, we are conducting a lawful investigation. Any further obstruction will result in immediate legal action." Daniels glared at Maya, his frustration evident. "This isn't over. You think you can expose us and protect your precious community center? You're playing a dangerous game." Before the situation could escalate further, Marcus stepped forward, his voice firm. "Officer Daniels, we respect the legal process, but we won't tolerate intimidation or harassment. If you have legitimate concerns, address them through the proper channels." Daniels's face twisted with rage, but before he could respond, the door swung open again, and a group of senior board members from TechHealth entered, their presence adding another layer of tension to the already volatile atmosphere. "What is the meaning of this?" one of them demanded, eyes darting between Angela and Maya. Angela quickly regained her composure, stepping forward. "We believe there has been a misunderstanding. We're here to facilitate a productive discussion." Maya didn't back down. "Misunderstanding. The evidence speaks for itself. TechHealth's deliberate actions to sabotage this merger and discredit the community center cannot be ignored." The senior board members exchanged uneasy glances, sensing the gravity of the situation. One of them, Mr. Collins, cleared his throat. "Dr. Thompson, we value your contributions to the community and your role in this merger. Perhaps we can find a way to address these concerns without further conflict." Maya shook her head, her resolve unshaken. "Addressing these concerns requires transparency and accountability, not evasive tactics and deflection. We're here to ensure that the merger is conducted ethically and that the community center remains a pillar of support for those who need it." As the tension in the room reached its zenith, a sudden noise outside the conference room door diverted everyone's attention. A loud crash echoed through the building, followed by the sound of shattering glass. Panic rippled through the room as everyone turned to see a masked figure entering, wielding a weapon. "Everyone stay down!" the figure shouted, brandishing a gun. "This ends now." Maya instinctively moved to shield Evelyn, her mind racing for a way to defuse the situation. Detective Jenkins reacted swiftly, pulling out her own weapon and taking cover behind the table. "Drop the weapon and put your hands up," she commanded, her voice unwavering. The masked assailant hesitated, glancing around the room, then aimed the gun towards the center table. "I'm tired of being silenced. TechHealth has destroyed lives, and now it's time for revenge." Maya took a deep breath, her internal struggle palpable. Anger surged within her, but she maintained her calm exterior. "You're not alone in this fight. Let's talk this out and find a peaceful resolution." The assailant's grip on the weapon tightened, eyes darting between Maya and the officers. "You think you can negotiate with someone like me? TechHealth won't stop until they've erased everything we stand for." Before the situation could spiral out of control, Officer Daniels lunged forward, attempting to disarm the attacker. The room erupted into chaos. Gunshots rang out, glass shattered further, and screams filled the air. Maya ducked behind Marcus, her heart pounding in her chest as she struggled to process the unfolding violence. Detective Jenkins and her team engaged the assailant with precision, their training evident as they moved to neutralize the threat. Amid the confusion, Maya caught a glimpse of Evelyn slipping away, heading towards the exit with a sense of urgency. As the confrontation reached its climax, the assailant was finally subdued, the immediate threat neutralized by the swift actions of the law enforcement team. Silence fell over the room, the gravity of the violence lingering in the air. Maya slowly emerged from her hiding spot, her eyes scanning the aftermath. People were shaken, some injured, others visibly traumatized by the sudden violence. The senior board members looked pale, their earlier composure shattered by the traumatic event. Officer Daniels stood over the assailant, his face contorted with frustration and anger. "You're done here," he spat, his contempt for Maya's efforts now more pronounced than ever. "This is what happens when you meddle in affairs you don't understand." Maya met his gaze, her resolve unbroken. "This is exactly why we need to expose TechHealth's corruption. Their actions have real, dangerous consequences for our community and those who stand against them." Detective Jenkins approached Maya, her expression one of support and solidarity. "We've secured all the evidence, and the attacker is in custody. This attack only strengthens our case against TechHealth. We need to move forward with the press release immediately." As Maya nodded, her mind was already strategizing the next steps. The conflict had peaked with the violent interruption, underscoring the lengths to which TechHealth would go to protect their interests. The stakes had never been higher, and Maya knew that the forthcoming actions would determine the fate of both the merger and the community center. As the evening darkness settled over the city, Maya stood outside the conference room, the weight of the day's events pressing down on her. She glanced at Marcus, Evelyn, and Detective Jenkins, their faces reflecting a shared determination and the scars of the intense conflict. "We've come too far to back down now," Maya declared, her voice filled with unwavering strength. "It's time to take a stand and bring the truth to light, no matter the cost." Just then, her phone buzzed again with a new message. "You think you've won? This is just the beginning. Watch your back." Maya stared at the message, a chill running down her spine. The battle was far from over, and the true confrontation was yet to come. With a steely resolve, she turned to her allies, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them.